So your new book, Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks, is a book about sisters. So I know you have a sister. Do you want to tell us a little bit about her and your relationship with her?
Yeah, and in my head I'm thinking, Lauren, put your self-editor on. But I talked to somebody like you and my self-editor flies away. Okay, so my sister is Susan and I love her, and she's 6.5 years younger than I am. And she actually is a writer too. She just had her first book come out.
Great.
Yeah, and it's awesome. But so you've got two sisters who are already kind of in this competitive relationship, and then surprise, they're both writers, and they're both, so it just continues things on as grown-ups. But when I think of my sister, what I think about is the fact that when we were young, it was totally, Lauren is the big sister, Lauren knows all, and Susan was wonderful and would go get me, you know, I would say, I'm kind of hungry, you want to go get me a Pop-Tart? And she was like, sure. And then she tells a story about how she realized once when she was about 10, she said to me, hey Lauren, I'm kind of hungry, would you go get me a, you know, Pop-Tart? And I was like, get it yourself, which was a big mistake, big mistake on my part, because from that point on, it was like her eyes were open to the fact that, wait a minute, we're both people. And so I think that the growth for both Susan and myself has been to realize that, yes, we have these roles, and my role was the big sister, the smart sister, her role was the younger sister, the pretty sister, and both of us wanted to be I mean, you know, you don't want your label to be either one of those things. Right. You want them to be both, really. Yeah. And so we had tons of love, but also tons of competition.
So your newest book, Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks. Tell us a little bit about that. What was your inspiration for writing it?
I'm so proud of Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks. I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but it was so hard to write, and in part, I think because it deals with more, it goes deeper than some of my other novels in terms of just things that are really important to me as a grown-up, but also me as a kid. You asked what inspired me to write it, and if I think about that, there's one scene that comes to my mind, and in the book it plays out with Carly, the narrator, and Anna, her sister, and it has to do with a swimming pool and a PE challenge. But in real life, here's what happened, and this will stick with me forever. So I went to this crazy, prestigious, wealthy prep school in Atlanta that was also a Christian prep school, and that is a weird mix. And so you've got all these beautiful pastel girls wearing their crosses, and then there was me, and I felt very odd and out of place, but at the same time there were things that I loved about it. But anyway, when I was in PE, there was this requirement, and I think it was insane. And when I think back on it now, in order to pass PE for the whole year, you had to do a back dive off the high dive. So we had a, thank you, I agree. Would you please let my PE teachers know? So, okay, high dive, high above the water. And you had to walk to the end of it, and there were these explicit directions about you turn around, you stand with your heels over the edge of the board, and the board is like, you know, swaying, you know, and then you put your hands up, and you stare at your knuckles, and then you have to just fall straight back. And if you, and you had to do it twice even, you couldn't just do it once. And if you crumple, you're gonna flop over and bam on your tummy. And if you bend forward, you flop over and bam on your tummy. And you know, people were like coming out crying because their blood vessels in their thighs had all been burst. And I mean, it really seems insane. Terrifying. And my mom, and it's now like, really? Huh, I wonder why I didn't have a problem with that. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, why didn't you have a problem with that? But we had a scholarship kid at this wealthy, prestigious, religious school that I went to, and when it came time for her to do the dive, she went out to the end of the board, and it was awful. I remember her, you know, the PE coach was being very disdainful and very, you know, come on, let's do it, let's get it over with, do it. And she just sank to the bottom of the board and was just holding on and trembling and crying. And it was that kind of crying that her whole face was, you know, covered with tears and snot, but she couldn't wipe it off because she didn't want to let go of the board. And all of us were just, some of the girls were full of, you know, eye rolls, and I just felt so ashamed of us and our school, and also of myself, that I couldn't do anything about it. And to make things more complicated, she was the one black girl in our class, and it was just awful, just terrible. And so that stuck with me, and I think Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks came about in part because I needed to write about that. I needed to write about some of that weird racial stuff and social class stuff, and then mix it in with my sister and all of those issues that every girl has.
So it sounds like there's a lot of similarities between your world growing up and the world of Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks.
Yeah, and I need to be careful. You know, it's so easy to make snap judgments about anything. I loved my world growing up, but it was a weird world, and a world filled with wealth and you know, brand name clothes and girls who would go to Paris to get their prom dress. Right. And I remember my mom got so mad at me once, and I resisted all of that. I felt like this feels really wrong and fake, and it didn't fit. And I remember showing up at Talbot's once, and I was barefoot, and my mom was horrified. I mean, she seriously was, you know, just livid that I would shame her by coming into Talbot's barefoot. And I can kind of understand it now that I have kids. You know, you don't go barefoot into the department store. But at the time I was like, but you know, peace, love, bare feet. So yeah, a lot of the book is about how Carly is stuck in this world and how she so desperately wants to find a way to be authentic. And at first she starts off by just dismissing everything about her school, which in the book is called Holy Redeemer. And her sister's like, yeah, so you're defining yourself by what you're not, because her sister fits into that world, you know? So here Carly is rejecting it all, which means rejecting Anna, at least that's how it feels to Anna. And Carly has to realize that becoming your own person isn't just about saying, I scorned that, I scorned that, I scorned that, I scorned that. It's about saying, I am this, I am that, I embrace this.
Yeah,
so
it's an important distinction.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite scene? Something, because I know the book is very emotional and very in depth with the relationship. So that's what I was going to say. It's very funny.
You know, I think I do have a favorite scene. Here is my favorite scene. Okay, so Carly and Anna had this big blowout. Their parents go out of town to New York for a weekend, and they're left with this insane babysitter who's not really a babysitter, and Carly is horrified at the thought of a babysitter. But they had this huge party, which the babysitter is all over. She's like, yeah, wine cooler. You know, she's excited about it. And Carly and Anna have a huge fight, and Anna leaves, and Carly can't find her, and it's the middle of the night, and Anna is wandering somewhere in the middle of the night in this neighborhood, and so Carly goes to find her and finds her behind a dumpster.
Oh my God.
You know, this kind of leg sticking out. And so Carly and Anna had this big all-out sisters fight in this behind the dumpster that smells like, you know, pee, and there's a porta potty there too, and you know, their mascara is running down their face. And so I love it. I love the fact that these sisters have it out and say what they need to say and cry, and also say, you know, I think Carly says something like, I know we'll close back up again. I know that things aren't always going to be perfect, but for this moment, she and Anna are connecting, you know. So
that's a really important part of sisterhood.
Yeah, to always find that place to come back together.
Absolutely. So what do you hope that readers will take away from Peace, Love, and Baby Ducks?
Oh, I want them to take away, as always, that reading is awesome and that reading changes your world, and that this book was really fun to read. But more than that, I guess I want them to take away that this is our life as far as we know it. You know, this is the chance we get, and you got to try to be authentic, and you got to fight that fight to lead a purposeful, meaningful life and have a whole lot of fun at the same time.